This is Press Pass. My name is Ken Mijunga, and as always, every Monday we bring you the conversations that matter in the media, and that's why this evening we are doing the same with a twist. We're putting a focus on ourselves, and not because of any good or bad thing, but because some of us have decided that it's time they traded the newsrooms for the August House. We'll find out the reason why that has happened. My name is Ken Mijungu. For the next 1 hour, we'll be talking about off to Parliament. All right, introducing my guest from my extreme left, Macharia Gaitho, an independent journalist. Thank you very much for coming to help us with this conversation. Macharia Gaitho is the only one who is actually not running in this panel tonight. So he joins us. Maybe it's just not time for him to run. We'll find out. A time will come for him to run. Thank you, Macharia, for coming. Next to Macharia Gaitho is Anderson Ojwang. Anderson Ojwang is a veteran journalist, I must say. He wrote for The Standard, was a bureau chief in both Eldoret and Kisumu before he decided, you know what, it's time I went to politics. Thank you very much, Anderson, for coming. And until sometimes last year, Kendagor Obadia was a journalist with Citizen Media after working, that's Royal Media Services, after working with a national broadcaster. So after Citizen, he has decided also to throw his hat in the ring. Thank you, Kendagor, for coming. And a man that I am not worthy of introducing because he's a veteran. He's been in this field longer than I can imagine, and that is Vitalis Musebe. He is running for Webuye East.
Webuye West.
Webuye West constituency. He also wants to be a member of parliament. Thank you very much for coming. And then Moha Jichopevu, or Mohammed Ali, KTN journalist, also for Nyali constituency. Thank you very much, Moha, for coming. He's known for as Jichopevu, so if I refer to him aside, you'll forgive me. And lastly, David Ohito, a journalist at National Media Group. He's decided also, you know what, it's time I quit the newsrooms and go for politics. So Ohito joins me also in studio, but he is at Standard actually. Right now that he's leaving, he is at Standard. You have resigned, right? Let's start that conversation right there. There's this requirement that ahead of the election, at least 3 months, you must have stopped working as a civil servant. Does it apply to media personalities, Ohito?
Well, in law, it doesn't really apply, but there are two sides to that coin. That we are seen to be like high priests in the work we do, and that if you follow the ethics of practice, I must not be seen to be partisan in the discharge of my journalistic duties. And those who are uncomfortable, especially those who have sensed they're going to lose the elections, are very uncomfortable with some of the individuals they see. I'm not saying NASA or Jubilee, but it's just fair to say it's time to pack and go and watch the game from the sides or play right into the game. So I think any professional worth his salt, it's time to step aside. So in law and any other unwritten or written, it's not a must that you resign. Well, hashtag is Press Pass. Join the conversation at Ken Mijungu, at Press Pass Kenya, at NTV Kenya. I'll be giving you their Twitter handles later so that you can join the conversation. But let me take this now to Macharia. In law or otherwise, written or not, this does not exist.
There is no law which makes it mandatory that a journalist seeking an elective post must resign. And I think that is the dilemma that faced the Media Council of Kenya when it singled out Ohito and Muhammad Ali and others. It could not do anything about it. So it could only appeal to the media owners to remove them from the newsrooms. But as we say, and that's something actually I've written about for my column tomorrow, ethical principles would require that if we decide to go into politics, then we distance ourselves from active journalism, particularly in an environment like ours where there are such deep partisan divides. But otherwise, there is absolutely nothing wrong legally. And even morally, if you look at the whole struggle for independence, it was led by journalists. Jomo Kenyatta and Fred Kubai and Bill Kagea, Makan Singh, Harry Thuku, all were journalists at some point. If you look at the struggle for the second liberation, again some journalists were at the forefront. People like Pius Nyamora of Society Magazine and Getabu Manyara, Nairobi Law Monthly, and Jehoga Tabaki with the Finance Magazine. But I suspect they were fighting for a cause a cause bigger than their individual aspirations to enter parliament. And I think that is the challenge we expect from this gentleman today. Are they fighting for a cause, or they just want to join the gravy train or the parasitical classes?
I'll skip a few. I'll skip Anderson and Vitalis because I want to throw this to Mohammed and Kendago. One of the things that we realized long before even you declared you're running for Nyali and you're going for Kapenguria, right?
Yep.
You had already started this activism sort of in your social media, for example, and you're not afraid to express yourself even before you made a declaration proper. What was going through your mind? You were not afraid of breaking a few rules?
I think it is because investigative journalism is just like a human rights defender. The more you see a lot of issues, the more you see a lot of problems, corruption and everything, you tend to act like an activist because of the pressure from the people that you are highlighting or covering their issues. So whatever we've been writing either on the newspapers or saying on social media will be treated by others as Muhammad Ali taking sides, but in reality this is what is happening in this country.
Okay, so it's just a reflection.
It's just a reflection of what is happening in the society, and someone must stand up and talk about it. Apparently in Kenya, if you speak the truth, you are seen as
labeled something.
You are labeled as
Let me throw the same question to Kendago.
Yes, I would not know at what point you would think that a journalist is partisan, or rather, at what point does your own conscience as a person, the drawing line between your conscience and the professional part of your work would make the difference? Because if you ask me, you have conscience. You know what you want inside your heart. But what goes out, what you disseminate, should be balanced. So we really have to detach what a journalist posts, whether in his own Twitter handle or on Facebook or anywhere, differentiate it from what he professionally broadcasts. For example, you know, I have been a political reporter. I have done politics. If, for example, I'm covering a Jubilee function, and by accident, 2 minutes of a story, maybe a few seconds of my story exceeds what another journalist is covering from a court function, then I would be deemed to be
partisan. Okay.
But then, do not forget that next time I would be assigned to cover a court function, and by accident, or maybe, well, it just happens, and you have 3 seconds
more than
what Jubilee has.
We see that all the time.
Then you are the victim.
Okay.
But so just to make it very clear, you are a journalist, a professional journalist. What goes on air matters more than what you comment at the off-cuff.
All right, I'll come back to you, Mohaino. But Anderson, this line that is difficult to draw, you drew it quite early, and among everyone here is perhaps you the only one who started the campaigns quite early, and you drew the line, you left this long before we could imagine you could run.
Thank you, Ken. One, we need to appreciate a journalist, the role of a journalist in a society. First, to inform, educate, and sensitize. I did understand what is the problem with our people. What is the problem? Where is the boundary as a journalist, and where is the boundary as a politician? I saw it. Journalists create politicians. At the end of the day, what do they create? Do they do what is expected of them? No. The more we create the politician, the more we create the trouble in the country. So I saw it. Now, it's better to be inside and fight and bring the change from within. I've done it from the newspaper perspective. Now I need to do it from the parliamentary perspective.
We'll be talking about the experience coming handy from the field, all of you from Moha. But let me give it to Vitalis. Vitalis, being a veteran, do you think this line needs to be drawn well in advance?
I think first there is this misconception that politics belongs to a certain group of people. Yeah, politics, as we have known it belongs to nobody. A lawyer gets into politics, a teacher gets into politics, A doctor gets into politics, and when you get in there, I think one of the things that must be emphasized is the point of conscience. How do you begin to appreciate the reality that that shift has happened and that you have moved from where you are to where you are now? Now, for me, I'm looking at a colleague. I'm saying I've been a journalist for the last 30 years and so, and now I have decided that there's something left in me, there's energy left in me that I can expense in articulating certain concerns that I feel that when you talk outside politics, those who are inside don't seem to appreciate that you have ideas and you have values and you have issues you want to address. So perhaps it's better to get in there and begin to address those issues and take them on and begin to make what Gaito spoke about to in the beginning, that this country requires certain things to change, that the people who went into politics from the newsrooms that he has mentioned before, they went there with a certain cause. And we see things going wrong. And I am very concerned about the things that go wrong. I think I'm passionate about the fact that in this country, so many things have gone wrong. And even us in the newsrooms, who are still inactive in the newsroom, I think I still have a bone to pick with them. Because we seem to report things as they are without having to ask ourselves, why can we change the way things are being done?
And you believe the journalists are able to change this?
We believe if we can do, we can change.
Okay, let me open this. Moha, you had something.
Yeah, I wanted to say that it's all about issues. The bad thing of being a journalist is, one, that you're good at telling people's stories, but no one will ever know or understand your story. No one will tell your stories. So if you go to a supermarket and the price of milk maybe is 100 or 150, you as a journalist, you'll buy with the same price. There's no special price for something. So when you talk about corruption, it also affects us. It affects everybody. So we are coming out of our comfort zone because I have seen everything in this country. The country is going down if you're not careful. I have decided to leave my comfort zone to fix this country. And that's why people might be asking, you are a journalist, why should you leave your beautiful career to join? But if I keep quiet, things will go wrong.
Change. Yeah. Macharia, you think that is one of the motivating factors for these guys?
I would hope so. That is what he's telling us. I would hope he's telling the truth. What this tells me is that I think all of us probably share one thing. We do see things that are going wrong, and we want change, and we believe that this country needs some transformation. And we want to play a role in that transformation. But when I look at the political parties all these colleagues of mine have chosen, they are all parties which are birds of the same feather. There is no fundamental difference between NASA and the Jubilee and the offshoots which are clinging to one or the other, Chap and PNU and all those other characters who are clinging to one of the main political formations. All of them are the same.
Are the same?
So so I am not seeing what difference these guys can make,
but perhaps
within those outfits.
It's just perhaps that's a vehicle, but they are individuals. Let me profile you a bit. Ohito is NASA, Moha is NASA, Vitalis is NASA, you are Jubilee, right?
Maendeleo Chap.
Okay. And Anderson is NASA. Okay, Macharia.
Yeah. You see, we have those two formations, NASA and Jubilee. They are very much two sides of the same coin. There is no fundamental difference in their ideologies or even in their leadership, because none of them have any defining ideology. Their ideologies are photocopies of each other, all derived from Kanu.
Okay.
I do agree with Gaido, but I think I want to make one point very clear. Two things. The people who run this country and those who want to get into politics don't come from heaven. They come from this country.
The same place. Yeah.
They come from here.
Okay.
And one thing that we must appreciate is that this prototype thinking that generally if you are this side, there is nothing you can bring.
Okay.
I think we have seen even when Gaido writes, he has pointed out that certain people within that parliament are voices of reason. And we have always said that certain people are voices of reason. And you can still be a voice of reason, whether you are in Jubilee
or in NASA. Ohito, you think so?
I'm very surprised that my good old chair, Macharia Gaido, can reason like a Kanu hawk. want to remind him of historical facts that have happened in this country. That at one time, Kanu tried to change, brought in the so-called dream team. These guys came from outside, from the corporate world. They were throwing the likes of Martin Odworotino, Leakeys, and so on. They flopped.
And why?
They didn't understand the game. Yeah. You must have people who understand the psyche of the political leadership so that you can bring in change.
Okay.
We understand these guys. We've covered them from time. We know their weak points. We know when to make points and when to make changes. We arrived at the new constitution because nobody came from out. The same lot of people. But it took a lot of convincing people with conviction that Kenya needs to move to the next level and needs better leadership. And
okay.
We had a new constitution.
All right, Anderson.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate what my senior has said. But we need to understand, Kenya is in the politics of transition. There has been, or we are in a moment where the power is now being devolved. Power is no longer centralized in the parties. We have the governors and the counties and the MCS, and then we have the MPs, then we have the party leaders. If you look at the current situation in the country's political landscape, we've devolved power. So saying that we are in the same cloth is not the same. What I
think you meant ideology.
Ideology, yes. It's not the same. If you look at the moment, all the governors are at crossroads with their party leaders. Why? Because they're trying to shape the landscape of the country.
Okay, and the party leaders. Can I go and give you 30 seconds before we take a break?
Well, don't give me 30 seconds.
Okay, 1 minute. 1 minute. You have to take a break. We'll come back for this conversation.
I am actually feeling that you set me up against
all these people.
All these guys are NASA. and let me just assure them that I will NASA all of you. I am not jubilated as such as well, but I am Maendeleo chap. That makes a difference. It's a language that is understood by a 2-year-old.
Okay.
It is a language that when CORD goes out or NASA goes out to drum support for itself, it says tunataka kufanya maendeleo. It is the same thing that Uhuru Kenyatta and Jubilee says when they go for their campaigns. They say tumefanya maendeleo. You know what? The language that Pokot man in the village understands is we need maendeleo, and not just maendeleo, chap.
I will take a break, and you answer my question as we go for this break.
Yes.
You have also obviously been out of the system and seen what happens and inside the system. Now you want to be a politician. There's a very bad culture of journalists depending on politicians for handout. Are you going to perpetrate that culture or change it? Just one word, change or perpetrate. Mheshimiwa tuko watatu.
If you come to me saying Mheshimiwa nipe kitu, I say, you know what, Mijungu, you are my friend. Go take some soda. But it should not compromise your position as a journalist.
All right. On that note, we take a short break. When we come back, my panel is still here. We want to talk about a lot. There's a tweet here from Ken Mayenga. Ken says, have those journalists used the newsrooms to popularize themselves? I'm asking myself, what is the problem if you use the newsroom as a stepping stone? Right, and welcome back to Press Pass. My name is Ken Mijungu, here with Macharia Gaidho, Anderson Ojwang, Kenda Gorobadia Vitalis, Mohammed Jichopevu, and Mr. Hito. The conversation is off to politics from the newsrooms, and now they want to go to the legislative arm of the government. There's a tweet here from Wycliffe Mashora. He says, or he's asking the question, you are criticizing politicians from outside. Will you bring the change in politics when in? Let's begin from there. Ohito.
That's why we are running for office.
I think it's about money, Ohito.
Which money?
I think it's about money.
As a senior editor, the difference between what you earn and what an MP earns is very small. And it's all to yourself and family.
Okay. This is for the whole community.
Earns, you divide by the number of voters. I mean, literally,
you get nothing.
You get
I'd love a grant of 7 million shillings for a 4x4. I'd love a 20 million shilling mortgage, you know, and I'd love to sit there and get an allowance of 5,000 shillings per sitting, morning and 5 in the afternoon. Wouldn't you love that, Ohito?
When I sit at CNN as a judge for 1 hour, I earn much more than that. When I present a simple paper telling people how to communicate effectively, I earn 5 times what an MP earns when he sits for...
So what is the reason, Ohito?
We want to change this country. We are tired of the twin problems of corruption and tribalism. There must be people who must stand up. We cannot be speaking about the things Uhuru's father and Raila's father spoke about in 60s. And we are in 2017. There must be people who are ready to come out, bite the bullet, and tell people, guys, we must have change. We must fight poverty across all corners of this country.
All right.
We have devolution now. We must strengthen it in the best ways possible so that money trickle from the county headquarters to every corner of the village so that there's no child that misses education, which is a right.
Okay, and biting the bullet is your thing, Moha.
Yeah. I think it's not about money, and this is the perception that each and every person has, especially the young people. When they hear the likes of Oito, Moha, and the rest of my colleagues here going into politics, they are saying that you are going to be just like them. But all of them are afraid to stand up and be counted. So I'll say it's not about money. Even if we go to parliament, yes, we are going to parliament because of solutions. Everybody knows the problem that this country is undergoing. If you talk about corruption, extrajudicial killings, all these things that is taking place in this country, we are going to parliament because of solution. And yes, we are still journalists. Even if we go to parliament, we will bring that Jichopevo thing inside parliament. If they steal from the public coffers, we will stand up and defend.
Moha, if you can't beat them, you join them, right?
I'm not joining them. I'm taking justice to their doorstep.
Okay. Vitalis.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is that this country belongs to us all. There are no people who are born and were anointed to become politicians, and the others who are anointed to become journalists. We became journalists, and at the time comes when a journalist says that certain things that are not going right can be put right when they are in a certain situation where they can participate in a more proactive way. For example, I think it's time we start looking at specifics. I'm looking, for example, at certain things that are happening today. Now, look at the last 15 days or so, where we engaged in something called voter registration, all right? Mass voter registration. I don't think we have done an audit to establish how much resources Kenya spent outside the Electoral Commission. Now, we said this exercise is the Electoral Commission's exercise, but look at how it was handled. Now, we spent billions of shillings to catch how many members of how many people to get elected to get votes? How many people got votes within that period? Is it commensurate with the resources we spent?
Okay.
There are certain things that go wrong, and we think, I personally think, that journalists, we have tried, we have a role to play outside Parliament. But Parliament is where laws are made. Parliament is where legislation is made. And it is important to understand that certain things cannot be changed if you are there. And you will be able to say, to raise your head up. I don't think that all people in that Parliament are a bunch of opportunists and they all went there for money. Money plays a role anyway.
Okay. But it's not the ultimate.
Even in the newsroom where we are, people in newsrooms also admire to be something more important. You've talked about brothers and others. Even journalists prefer to drive those kind of vehicles. It's not a preserve of politicians. But I think the more important thing is that Kenyan politics does not represent the reality of Kenyan situation.
Okay. Kendago, I know you and I and newsrooms and the money we earn, we can't deny this is more money than we earn.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's forget about
Ken, money is good.
Yes. Money is sweet.
Money is sweet.
Yes.
Sauti ya pesa. But then, what is wrong for you to get a pay of what you have done? If I am elected today to represent the people, the great people of Kapenguria constituency, and I represent them well, why can't I get a commensurate pay for what I do? But that aside, every job pays anyway. You can't get a job and say, I don't want the money. They'll say, yeah, I want to do it fast, then pay me. The only part that I don't like about our politicians who've been there before is the idea of wanting to get paid for a job not done.
Or equivalent to.
Exactly. Like what they're asking for today. They're asking for over 7 months. They're saying pay us for 7 months that they are not going to sit in that house. Why?
But when you join them, you will also be asking for that.
Well, that is what you're thinking.
No. Tell me otherwise.
No. But I will tell you this. I love getting paid for what I do.
What you do?
But then, this is my motivating factor. This is what I will tell you now. Have you ever been put in a situation where you will be blowing a whistle over what your mom and dad did in the house? Maybe they fought. That's not a good thing. But because you're a journalist, you've got to go and say, you know what? I'm here and I'm telling you my mother and dad fought last night. While you have the solution where you can go and talk to your mom and dad and say, this is not good, let's not do it. Figure out this. I come from a place that is volatile. Today you're talking about Baringo, the Pokot side of Baringo, that's Tiati constituency. You're talking about people killing each other. You're talking about war. I am a journalist, I'm supposed to tell you that we fought. I'm supposed to be telling you that this happened. I'm supposed to be telling you that we are hungry, we are dying. I'm supposed to be telling you that we are not going to school. I'm supposed to be telling you everything negative about my people. That is not what I want to do.
So you want to get inside that to change those things?
I want to be part of the solution.
And why do you think the guys who are there have not been able to do this?
Simple. Something about politicians is this. You get there without experience. You get there having known just the area you represent. My name is Kendago Obadia. I have gone all over the world. I have traveled to Somalia. I have seen deaths. I have seen all those things you're talking about. I have been arrested. He's my witness. He wrote a story about me being arrested in Uganda because of my people. Do you know what? I know what ails my people.
All right.
I have seen it and compared to what the people of the world have done. So I have what I call the best
experience. Anderson,
that's what matters.
I appreciate that. Anderson, you wrote papers for the longest time, headlines. I remember in the early 2000s, Anderson Ojwang was virtually in the headlines, and you were explaining some of these things that you're currently running to change. I mean, it's been how many years? Honestly, why do you think you can be the change as a journalist?
It's been a while. I appreciate what my brother Kendago has said, but I want to say, I've started changing the political landscape in this country. I've started fighting the politics of money. I've introduced what we call Kibrit revolution, where you don't give people money, you give them matchboxes.
Literally, matchboxes.
This is what I have. This is what I give. You see?
Are you sure this is not
smoking? Revolution.
You will ban them.
What do I mean? Let me tell you something. I got this from the biblical perspective. From the biblical perspective. At the beginning, it was darkness and water. God said, "Let there be light." So there was light. And said, "This is good." Then I say, "What is ailing Kenya? Where did rain begin?"
So you're bringing the light.
So we want to look at how do we tackle the issue of corruption? We bring them the light. How do we tackle the issue of poverty? You know, Kenyans are suffering. We are dying. We need to look at this. We bring them light. How do the infrastructure? So how do we come in now? This is how the journalists now come in. We bring the light.
I'm reluctant. Mashara, sum up all this for me. Sum up all this for me.
In a very simple way.
Yes, sum it up for me.
We are all journalists with more or less similar training. And I think all of us are conditioned to having a very cynical view of politicians and the promises they make and what they do once they are in office. Now, these guys have gone into politics. And obviously, there will now suddenly be a divide. Because from where I sit, I will now see them not as journalists,
but as politicians.
Yes. I can bet all of you have written something about our greedy MPs, how they are overpaid, how they're just out to loot.
Yes.
It's very interesting that you also want to join them. And I think now you have no qualms about how much they earn. Only that now you draw a distinction that mine will be earned while them they're earning theirs.
If I may add, the problem with this country is not the politician. The problem with this country is us Kenyans, because we are not taking the politicians to parliament. Basically, what they are doing is like the politicians takes themselves to parliament.
They buy their way to parliament.
Buying the voters. You'll be shocked every time that I go around the Nyali constituency to talk to the people people must always tell you, mheshimiwa tuachie kitu kidogo. This is the perception that is in their mind, and I don't do that because I've worked hard for many years. I've never stolen from anybody, so I don't have money to bribe. I don't have Eurobond money or NYS money to give to people. So the problem is not the politician. The problem is us voters who will always vote for these people. For example, the other day I just put a pay bill number on my social page saying that Kenyans for Moha, anybody can contribute, even if it is a shilling, so that we can take this struggle journey to parliament. We can take justice to their doorstep. But you could see learned people, other Kenyans asking, wewe ndio unafaa utupatie. You are supposed to give us. Instead. But I want, if I want money right now, I have a lot of friends whom I can call. But I don't want to call because one, if they give you that money to campaign,
can be beholden to them.
Yes. Once you get to parliament, they will be doing things that you can't stop them from doing. Okay. That's why we want each and every Kenyans to come on board and make sure that this time round, it is them who are going to vote for the person that they want, but not the politicians who are going to buy them.
Okay. One more motivation, which is why I'm seeking this elective post that Ugenya constituency presents to me, is that for the longest time we have been some of the fiercest defenders of the media space. We are tired of writing editorials, writing page one commentaries, complaining about MPs and government. I want to go in there and make sure there is no single law, no clause will pass under our watch.
As an individual?
Of course, there's lobbying. I am an institution in my own right. I can lobby my people. I can civic educate my colleagues. Most of them rubber stamp these laws without knowing what it means for society. And we must protect that freedom of expression as a democratic right. And there, be sure you have one defender inside come August 9th.
That one I will support. I can say we have been in the trenches with Ohito, fighting to secure our space in terms of media freedom, the freedom of expression, all these freedoms which were entrenched in the Constitution. But right now, we have seen a government very determined to roll back those freedoms. And it is this is a struggle which never ends. And it does not matter which regime comes to power. It will still continue to try and roll back that space because politicians are conditioned to wanting power for themselves and denying everybody else their rights. And these things are so important. That was I will certainly support. But I just hope that he too can keep to his word if he gets in that August House.
Macharia, the question I asked this gentleman, and unfortunately we don't have a lady here, is one, what is the motivation from where you sit, Macharia? Honestly, what is the motivation for this gentleman?
You know, I have not had the chance to interrogate them individually, one-on-one, to find out what their motivation is.
What do you think is their motivation?
Is that I am very cynical. And they want to be in parliament, yes. And to me, they want to join the what I call the parasitic classes, unless they can individually convince me otherwise. I am a voter. I always say you must vote. In fact, you deny yourself a very basic freedom if you don't vote.
Yeah.
There's a tweet that I have to read.
You can only vote for those who are in the field. So probably one of these fellows might be seeking my vote somewhere.
Okay.
Because they're the ones in the field. And I have to choose somewhere,
wisely.
You know.
But there's something that you have to mention something here. There's the question of, you know, there's no collective motivation for some of these things. You can't say all of us are motivated in the same way.
Yeah.
Each one of us has a motivation that's different from the other person. I don't believe that for me, my motivation, I'm very clear in my mind why I want to be in politics. And I know some of the challenges that we face, particularly as a journalist, is the issue of this culture of money. This culture of money, we allowed politics to dominate, to introduce in our lives, and it has become a very major challenge. And I think the only journalist who has loads and loads of money, sacks of money to spend has not been in the newsroom. Yeah. Those who have been in the newsroom don't have that money spent.
All right. So let me put across something, Ken. You see, the electorate is not a dump lot. They're not just going to elect you because you are TV.
But that's what the politicians think, to be honest.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm telling you.
That's what they think of
if
the
today,
electorate.
Kendagor wants to become the member of parliament for Kapenguria just because he was on the screens one time, then I'm wrong. The people of Kapenguria should know what has this man done for us? What has he been able to advocate in terms of the livelihoods of the people? And you know what? Today, I'm not going to Kapenguria to ask them to elect me just because I am Kendago. The people must know, as we speak today, you know, before I joined these big media houses, I already started a school in a place called Lonyali, the border of Turkana and Pokot, where I will get children from the Pokot side and Turkana side. They go to the same school. And next week, by the way, God willing, I'm going to take their 2 donkeys because they don't have water.
Okay, to ferry for them water.
So let me tell you, it depends on what you have been able to do for your people.
Okay.
And then, just because you've been in an influential position, then of course you know 1 or 2 things that these other politicians don't know.
Anderson.
Ken, one thing you need to understand that journalists have gone through the hard way. One, they were correspondents, and they were being paid peanuts, but they were still able to be fair and just in their reporting. That means the integrity is very high. Again, journalists have been able to cover corruption stories. They've been approached with lots of money, but they've refused. If we are elected, I can assure you, we know where the rain began to beat us. We know where Kenya went wrong, and we can go together and say this is the path we want to take. Change cannot be brought by masses, but just by a few people who come together. That's why we are coming together, to give Kenya a new face.
An alternative. Tevi Tev says, my worry is that most of these journalists will be swallowed by Wenyeji in quotes. Take this to the bank, Mijungu. Do you believe that as we take a break? Do you believe that?
That's why I'm not in
no one believes that.
I will tell you, I covered very eloquent, selfless individuals in Parliament. The late George Museti Anyona, God rest his soul. Martin Shikuku. These were people who were never greedy enough to grab.
In fact, they died very humble people.
Yes.
Well, that's your point, Mohan?
Yes, and I wanted to say the problem with such tweets is that I'm very sure he's a young person like I, but he can't stand up. He's afraid to go to Parliament. He's afraid to be an MCA, senator or governor. But for those who are ready to stand up, because it's a calling, they feel like this is the right time to stand up and defend this country. Then you'll see such critiques, but they are good, they are healthy.
They help you. We know, because we'll keep you in check. You know the beauty of this, Mohammed, is the people you leave will keep you in check. And if Macharia has not made his mind, we'll sit right here next year. Hopefully you all will. Guys, I have to take a break. Then when we come back, I want to read this from Kongore Purity. She says, the only chance of telling the truth is journalism. It's impossible to speak the truth in any other field, not even the priest.